Welcome to The Explainer. This is where we take really big ideas and turn them into simple, easy-to-understand blueprints. And today, oh man, we are building the ultimate guide for any business. We're talking about the theory of production.
All right, so let's just jump right in. If you want to understand how pretty much every single business on the planet works, you only need to ask one simple question. What does it actually take to get your morning coffee into your hands? The answer to that gets to the heart of a huge economic process that runs everything, and that process is production. Okay, but first things first, we got to kind of reset how we think about this. When you hear the word production, you're probably picturing a factory, right? Cars rolling off an assembly line, that kind of thing. But in economics, it's a much bigger, way more powerful idea than just that.
So at its absolute core, production is just any activity that makes something more useful. That's it. Economists have a fancy term for this. They call it adding utility. We're not talking about creating matter out of thin air here, right? It's all about taking stuff that already exists and transforming it into something that we actually want, something more valuable. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this value we're talking about, it's not just one thing. Nope, it's created in 4 totally different ways. Let's go back to our coffee. When you take those raw, green coffee beans and roast them, bam, that's form utility. Moving those roasted beans to your local cafe so you can buy them, that's place utility. Storing them so they're ready and waiting for you exactly when you want your caffeine fix, that's time utility. And that last step, the barista who actually makes your perfect latte, well, that service is personal utility. See, all 4 of those steps are part of production. Okay, so if production is our big recipe for creating value, what are the ingredients? Well, according to economists, there are 4 essential things, the building blocks that go into making literally everything.
And here they are, the big 4. First up, you've got land. Now, this doesn't just mean a plot of dirt. It's all natural resources. So yeah, it includes the physical space our coffee roastery sits on. Next, there's labor. That's pretty straightforward. It's the human effort, both brain and brawn. Then we have capital. And be careful here, this isn't just money. In economics, capital means the man-made goods used to make other goods. Think about the roasting machine, the delivery trucks, the building itself. And finally, the secret sauce, the most crucial ingredient, the entrepreneur. This is the person with the big idea, the one who pulls all these other factors together, takes on the risk, and actually makes it all happen.
All right, we've got our ingredients, so now let's check out the actual recipe card, the instructions that tell a business how to mix it all together. And that recipe card has a name: the production function.
Now, don't let the math on the screen scare you. It's way simpler than it looks. All that formula is saying is that your output, your Q, depends on, a function of your inputs. We usually just boil it down to labor, L, and capital, K. It's really just the technical recipe for the business. It says, hey, with the technology you have right now, if you put in this much labor and this much capital, you're going to get this much output. Simple as that.
And this recipe idea leads to a really important split in how businesses think and plan. You've got the short run versus the long run. See, in the short run, at least one of your ingredients is fixed. You're kind of stuck with it. Our coffee roastery can hire more people, sure, but they can't just snap their fingers and get a bigger roasting machine tomorrow. But in the long run, that's different. In the long run, everything is variable. Everything is on the table. They can build a whole new factory, buy 10 new machines. Anything's possible. Okay, now we get to what might be the single most important rule in any kitchen, or any business for that matter. It's about knowing when adding more of something actually starts to spoil the dish. And this is a fundamental law you absolutely cannot ignore, especially when you're thinking about the short run. It's called the law of diminishing returns, and it's a super powerful concept. Basically, it says that if you keep adding more of one ingredient, say workers, to a fixed ingredient like our one roasting machine, the extra bit of output you get from each new worker is going to eventually start to go down. Let's see this in action with our roastery. So, one worker, they can roast 100 bags. Okay, you bring in a second worker, and together they get 210 bags. Now look. The total is obviously going up, which is great, but the real story here, the thing you have to pay attention to, is how much extra you get with each new person, because that second worker, they didn't just add another 100 bags. No, they added 110 bags. That is more than the first person did on their own. This is that beautiful early stage of teamwork and specialization. It's called increasing returns, and it feels like magic. But that magic never lasts, does it? You fast forward a bit and look what happens. The 5th worker you hire,
They only add an extra 80 bags to the total. Why? Well, the roastery's getting crowded. People are bumping into each other, maybe waiting for their turn on the machine. We have officially hit the law of diminishing returns. So you keep hiring, right? You get to worker number 10. And what does adding that person get you? A big, fat 0. Nothing. No extra bags of coffee. The machine is just maxed out. It's running 24/7. It literally cannot produce a single bag more. And then it gets worse. You hire an 11th worker, and your total output actually goes down. It falls. They are literally just getting in each other's way. You know the saying, too many cooks in the kitchen? This is it. This is the stage of negative returns, where adding more people is actively hurting you. And this is that short-run wall that every single growing business eventually slams into. So, you've hit the wall. What do? Well, the answer is you have to break out of that short-run thinking. You have to start thinking about the long run, where you can change everything. Not just how many people you have, but the size of the whole operation. And this brings us to a new idea called returns to scale. So when a business decides to scale up, like double everything, one of 3 things is going to happen. The best case scenario? They get increasing returns to scale. You double your ingredients and you get more than double the coffee. Awesome. This happens because of new efficiencies. Or you might get constant returns to scale. You double the inputs, you get exactly double the output. Perfectly scalable. But there's a danger. As companies get really, really big, they can hit decreasing returns to scale. You double everything, but you get less than double the output. The company just becomes this giant, slow-moving beast that's too complicated to manage well. And that right there is the producer's ultimate puzzle. It's this constant balancing act. How do you mix your land, your labor, and your capital to get the most value possible? How do you deal with those diminishing returns that you know are coming in the short run, while also trying to figure out the absolute perfect size for your business in the long run? I mean, that's the puzzle every single entrepreneur is trying to solve, whether they're running a tiny coffee cart or a massive global corporation. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract business school puzzle. It really, really matters. Because this whole theory, it's not just about one company. When you add up all the production from all the businesses in a country, well, that's what determines that nation's wealth, its standard of living. It's literally the engine that drives an entire economy. So getting your head around this blueprint, from the simple idea of adding value 1 cup of coffee at a time, all the way to knowing the exact moment to stop hiring, that is the secret to finding the perfect recipe for success. But it leaves you with a pretty big question, doesn't it? How many businesses out there ever really, truly master it?